Bring It, the Nerd Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Just Bring It podcast with my very, very special guest today. He has been the 2016 Empire Award winner for doing Legend Vision in 60 seconds. And also he did productions for NGW in Hull, for Wednesday Night Wrestling, IPW, the old Wrestle Talk TV show, if you remember. And he has been with WXW since last year. Welcome to the show, Marc Shuttle.
Awesome. That was quite an introduction. Thank you very much for having me today.
It's very nice to have you here on the show. You've been a familiar face for people that follow the WXW YouTube channel. And we've got a few questions of people. Do you want to invite people from backstage, from behind the scenes? And of course we want to do that. And after a big, great weekend that was 16 Karat Gold this year, I thought this might be the perfect opportunity to get you here on the show. So how are you doing?
Yeah, good. A little tired still trying to catch up with sleep after everything that happened at 16 Carat. But I'm good, very good. I'm very, very happy with how everything went over the 16 Carat weekend and how everything went with, the Fight for Paris show and We Love Wrestling 43 in the following week. So I'm feeling really good, really positive about the future, and yeah. Everything's good.
That sounds nice. Speaking of positives, there has been like an incredible positive feedback of the production of everything that's now on WXW now, and it seems like the level of production in WXW has been elevated since you joined. It was on a very high level when you did, but now it's like on an even higher level. But first thing first, you gotta start somewhere. You gotta start. You need to learn. You need to make your experiences, and then eventually you end up in like these big things like WXW, like probably the biggest promotion in wrestling today. So the big first question is I have for you: how did you start in video production and production itself? What was your first step?
Oh, video itself really was something of like a side hobby along with music, because I was a musician for like many years before I got into the wrestling business. And so, I had like a tiny little handheld camcorder, and I would make a few videos here and there for the bands I was working with, some artists I was working with. And at one point I went back to college to study music, just literally to become a better musician. And one of the like modules in the course was all about music videos and how to implement video into the music stuff we're doing. So that was really when I got my hands on a like professional video camera for the first time. And it's so long ago now, the camera was still using tapes, mini DV tapes. So yeah, like we shot a couple of music videos. We shot kind of a really rough kind of documentary. I think the documentary and one of the music videos is still out on YouTube somewhere. And that kind of like, it was a bit of an interest, but it very much sat on the sidelines, whilst the actual music itself was the main focus throughout kind of, the early 2000s for me.
So then when did the shift happen? When did the side job become a more major thing in your life and your career?
So that was really when I got involved in professional wrestling. Bands can be tough to work in at times. It's a small but close-knit group of guys, and if you're not all on exactly the same page, making things happen can be really hard, because it's not like, there's one guy leading and everyone else kind of follows and takes direction. It's more like of an equal split amongst people. So they'd all kind of fizzled out because it was hard to find like the right people, and at times it was just one person, like maybe especially drummers are super hard to find. But yeah, the bands were just struggling, so I'd kind of given up on it. It fizzled out somewhat, and so I was reading Power Slam magazine, which used to be huge at the time before it disappeared, and it was just like a little footnote on the like 3-page news column, and it's there's going to be a booking and promoting seminar held on, like, I believe it was Saturday, the 14th of January, 2012, in Dagenham, kind of like on the like East London Essex borders. And I was actually living at the time like one tube stop away from there. So I'm like, holy shit, this is it. This is how I'm going to get into the wrestling business. Because if we kind of like rewind 6 months, CM Punk had just done the pipe bomb. And for whatever reason, the night he did the pipe bomb, I decided to sit up and watch Raw live, and it blew my mind and just reignited my passion for wrestling like it hadn't been in a long, long time. And so, yeah, I sort of said it. I'm like, that's it. I'm going to get into wrestling. And being, someone who didn't really know much about, the true inner workings of the business, I was, as a fan, I thought I knew how it all was. But I didn't really have a clue. And I literally thought I was going to do this like 1 day seminar. I think it was like 6 or 8 hours in the end. I can't remember. I'm going to say 8 because it was a long day. But I'm going to do this like 1 day course, 8 hours. And I'm going to be the best goddamn booker and promoter the world has ever seen, bigger than Vince McMahon, right? Because I was an idiot. So yeah, I went down there and I did the seminar, and there was an opportunity at the end of it. So the seminar was run by a guy by the name of Alex Shane, and he said he had some opportunities. And he's like, so after that, he hooked us up with another guy, Jack Saunders, who was running the ring crew for TNA that year. And so our first actual job in wrestling was helping to lift and load and prepare TNA's ring for their UK tour, which was only like a week or 2 weeks out. And from there, I just took the ball and ran with it. I remember a couple of things which were said on that day specifically. And one of the things we were told was that, you can either treat the wrestling business like a business or you can treat it like a hobby. And I decided then and there, like, I'm going to treat this as a business. Like, I'm going to do everything I can to make this work. And also we were told, like, the kind of like dropout rate from people who first of all like get involved in wrestling is like super high. I think there was maybe like a room of 20 or 30 people that attended the seminar. And it's like, statistically in like 5 years, only one of you people is going to be left. And in 10 years, probably none of you are still going to be here. So, I'm very happy that 11 years on, I'm still here, thankfully. And I think I probably am the only one from that group who turned up who was there. Because, we did a second, follow-up seminar 2 months later, and I think only 5 or 6 of us returned, as was, how quick was, the dropout rate on that stuff. But at that time, I still hadn't decided that, or even realized that video was going to be the thing that I was going to do. And I can't remember when it came up. I think it was maybe around May or June that year. There was an opportunity to go down to IPW UK in Kent, and they needed someone to film the show. So, having a little bit of a background in video, I was putting myself forward, and I just ran with it from there. Just didn't let it go. I'm like, if this is my way in, if this is how I get into this business, if this is how I learn everything that I need to learn, still with my eyes on becoming a booker and promoter at the time, I'm like, then that's what I do. I'll grab cameras and I'll film all these shows and I'll do what I can to really make that happen. And in that first year in 2012, I ended up filming, I guess in 6 or 7 months alone, 27 shows, which was mind blowing for me, that I could be that busy and yet still be so green and know so little about wrestling.
That's insane. So that pipe bomb promo by CM Punk, that really started the fire, and you're still having that big passion right now, because that also helped you to go and find the strength to be there and to come back to the seminars and to do this and to do that and to keep being busy and more busy and more busy, while people left, right and center around you were dropping out. You were still there, you were that front and you were resisting. You were standing against that cold winter weather front of all that is the best wrestling business, the ever-changing wrestling business. And you are still here today, and I can tell you, we are very happy to have you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So in that big chunk of your story, you answered. To be fair, you answered a lot of my questions here
Okay,
already, so
awesome.
that's very good. But when you first started in the first seminar, let's use that as the first starting point. When you were sitting there listening to everything, did you have like, besides becoming a booker, did you have like a final end goal, or let's say if you were sitting in that first seminar, did you have like one thing that you always wanted to do in wrestling, that you were set up to do? I want to do this, and you are now living.
Good question. I mean, I suppose my two biggest goals from there were to one, make wrestling my full-time living, my full-time income, and secondly, to be a booker, to work on the creative end of wrestling, because I think as well I was much more interested in being a booker than I was a promoter. So yeah, and both of those things have happened for me. So that's amazing.
That's really amazing. But you are now doing video production for wrestling, in-ring event wrestling. But because I need to ask this question, because if I wouldn't do that, everyone would be after me after this video comes out. Because I'm obviously affiliated with WrestleTalk and have been for years.
Yes.
So I've been there many times in London with them, and so the question is, you've worked for the old WrestleTalk TV show, if I'm right, like on Challenge.
Yes.
How does that differ from the wrestling business? And also, in addition, do you still follow what they are doing right now on YouTube?
So I don't really follow WrestleTalk much these days. I worked for them on and off a few times over the years. But getting back to that very first season, like the TV show itself wasn't really part of the wrestling business from my perspective. It was a TV show and it was about wrestling, and we were filming and producing this in this tiny horrible little studio in Dagenham. We had like zero budget, and we were just doing whatever we could to just to make it work. And so I was kind of I can't remember what they actually credited me as. It was like associate producer, assistant producer or something. But like my role essentially was just to be there and do whatever needed doing to make the show work and flow and run. And it was an interesting time. And again, like the cameras we had, these were cameras which again still took mini DV tapes. So part of my duties was to go out to buy a big batch of these cassettes for the video cameras, so that we could sit there and actually get the show captured, because we didn't have anything that was using memory cards at that time. I think memory card camcorders had been out a little while, but they were still super expensive to actually buy. And with the tapes, you kind of need to have a new tape every time. The more you recorded over it, the more problems you got. And occasionally we still got problems with the tapes anyway. And it was always stress trying to be okay, we need to find the same tapes every week and the same quality of tapes, because Sony might make 3 different mini DV tapes. We can't afford the super expensive, but we don't want the super cheap because the colors aren't quite right. So it was a bit of a problem trying to hunt down and make sure we had the same tapes that were good quality every week, to make sure that the show was always going to look as good as it did. And yeah, it was a bit intense at times. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any specific questions about that period I could answer?
I heard the stories of that studio in Dagenham. I heard many stories. Also, the famous stories how it all ended when the Pigeon Gate. I don't know if you heard that story about Pigeon Gate, because I was still filming the YouTube stuff. And one day the roof gave in, and all the dead pigeons and eggs and everything were in that studio. And there was one pigeon.
I didn't hear that. Jesus! We knew they were there because you could hear them in the actual studio room as you're trying to record, and they made a lot of noise.
Oh God!
Yeah,
that must have been a hassle to get that sound out of, or didn't it make it to the microphones?
Well, back at that time, so this is 2012. Back at that time, we didn't have an issue with the pigeons in there. They hadn't found a way in at that point, so that wasn't too much of an issue. I think, more so the issue was that the actual room we had was really small, like for what we needed, and we're trying to fit in, like 3 or 4 people on the actual set itself, and then we got 3 or 4 cameras plus camera operators plus sound ops, directors, producers, and then we're trying to bring in a few like extra people to make some noise and kind of like do the soccer AM thing of just like the crew and like extras just making some noise to give a bit of energy to it. So it got very warm in there and it was very cramped, even though usually we were filming it in the middle of winter, so it was freezing cold outside. And it was interesting, like the studio itself was really old. I don't think it had been like done up since like the 70s maybe, or early 80s, when the guy who originally owned it kind of bought it and developed it. So a lot of it was in need of an update,
Yeah, but that never came to pass because I believe it was the authorities that said, yeah, this is not usable anymore. And I don't think that Ollie Davis really wanted to use it again after the entire thing happened.
No,
So-
not at all, not at all. I think for Ollie it was like he'd been presented with this building, like this is where we're working out of, rather than he had been given the choice of like, would you choose this place? Because I'm pretty sure none of us would have chosen that building had we been given a choice in the matter.
Yeah, I think so. I personally have never been there, only been in the offices after Dynam, but this is a crazy, crazy, crazy story. But this is an experience in itself, but you've made a lot of experiences before going and coming up and ending up in WXW. So what has been your favorite place to work or your favorite job to do before ending up in WXW?
Ooh, I don't know. Like, there's been so many great places to work and so many different experiences. Like being a part of What Culture when they were producing those red hot events at the beginning there was so fun. And for that, I was just a camera operator. I wasn't kind of like involved in much more in the process there, apart from editing a couple of episodes of Loaded for them at one point. But that was super cool when like we would do like the drives up from London to Newcastle, when we do 2 nights back to back at the O2 in Newcastle City Centre. That was so much fun. The crowds were insane. The talent was off the charts. Like, those are some really fun experiences. Also, like, I really enjoyed working for NGW, New Generation Wrestling in Hull. Those were probably, like, in my mind at the time, like the best shows, because you didn't have guys doing a lot of crazy stuff and killing themselves, but we were doing these shows in Hull City Hall with like 1,000 people in attendance, and people just losing their minds over what was going on. The production was like super high end. So that was a lot of fun. And again, like when doing the whole rides, they were super useful to me, because we would ride with the booker. So he would kind of, on the way up, he would tell us everything he had planned, what's going on in this match, what he's thinking, what this angle is, what the finish is, and explain why all this stuff's happening. So we'd know what to expect. Then the show would happen. And on the drive back down, he would deconstruct every little detail for us. And so we get to learn, like, this was meant to happen, it didn't, or this was meant to happen, but it didn't quite work, and so now I've got to change plans with this, this, and this. And actually, if you look at this detail here, this was really good, got over so much bigger. Maybe we need to take a better look at like what these guys are doing. These guys didn't get over as strong. Maybe we need to stop giving them such a big push and just really understand that creative side and really dive deep into what went into that side of the business, because that was a side which you couldn't kind of just go out there and learn on your own. No one was really going to teach you that, especially as video production crew. Like, as a non-wrestler in the business, learning that side of things is super fucking difficult. So I was always like super glad to have those opportunities and to and be able to sit there on those rides, have those conversations, pick those brains, and really try and understand what goes into that creative stuff, because as I said at the beginning, like I had my eyes on being a booker down the road.
So if you've made your experiences, you had great fun doing so, and all of this led up to Westside Extreme Wrestling Germany, a different country. So the big question is, of course, how did you end up in WXW after all of this?
Well, COVID had like hit. And I was running my own production company, Firebrand Video, it was called, and we were producing events for a lot of people. IPW, Eve, Fight Nation. I'm sure I'm forgetting a ton of other people off the top of my head. But COVID hit, and basically got to the point where we couldn't afford to live in London anymore because there were no live events. And my wife's job, we're trying to cut her down from like 40 hours a week to 30 hours a week. And the government had like kind of cut its funding for self-employed businesses. So we decided the best thing to do was just get the hell out of London. And we went to go live with my wife's parents in rural Northern Ireland. And I'd very much we'd kind of said that, we're retiring from the wrestling business at this point. Like, there was no way where we were in Ireland we'd be able to do anything. We had to sell all of our equipment for only about 60% of what it was worth, because every freelancer and production company was doing the same at the time, just because we needed the money from it. And so we were kind of done with things, and we were looking at other stuff. And, we were trying to run our own e-commerce business, which wasn't going well because we both hated the customer service aspect. And one day I just log onto LinkedIn, and I don't even know why I logged onto LinkedIn on this day. I hadn't looked at it in a while, had no real need to look at it. And there was a message there from Felix Kohlenberg. And, he just kind of said, like, we've got this opening. We heard that you would be someone with the relevant skills and experience. Is this something you'd be interested in taking a look at? If so, we'd love for you to apply for the role. So yeah, I spoke to my wife. I'm like, I just got this message. Like, it feels super crazy, but like, what do you think? Should we go? And she didn't even have to think twice. She's like, Germany? Yeah, let's do it. So I'm like, okay, like, calm down. Let me let me actually apply for this role first. Let me get together a CV, give them some links to some like work, write a cover letter and everything. And so I applied, and then I think this was like the end of January 2022. And then in February, would have had an interview over video call. I can't remember if it was like Zoom or what we use, but when I got to speak to Felix and Tass and Katja, who was also there, like, interviewing her successor for the position, to help make sure that the company made the right decision there. And yeah, just kind of spoke to them and did the interview. Me and Katja got really deep on some, tech stuff, geek stuff, which we both love so much. And I think it was maybe a week or so later, they offered me the role and said, if you're still interested, if you still want to move to Germany, like, let's do this. And we'd love to fly you out for 16 Carat Weekend 2022.
So the very interesting information here is that you got the message from them. So you didn't reach out to them first. It was WXW, Felix Kohlenberg, who reached out to you. So
yes, so
yes.
So this might even be your question. So he spoke to Alan Taylor at Smash Wrestling in Canada, because we were over there for 6 months in 2013, and we filmed a bunch of shows with them guys. And Alan is another Englishman, and I know he's always been close with Katja and WXW. And I don't know whether they asked him if he was interested for the role or if he just knew people. And it turns out Alan has kind of, always kind of followed and kept up with what I've been doing throughout my career. So he said, like, speak to Mark. He's got the relevant skills and experience. He might be interested. So yeah, I was super grateful for Alan, remembering me and recommending me for that.
That's wonderful. So it's all about these connections you gotta have, and you might even don't remember these connections for a couple of years, and then that's so nice. That's
Yeah.
very nice of him to really remember you, and it ended up being like a new job for you when you really were looking for something, and that's a very nice fairy tale story, fairy tale ending here.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, it's strange how like these things come around sometimes. How these people, like, who you don't think you really had like a big impact or influence on, come back years later like, oh no, you had like a huge like impact on me. And it's funny because that happened with someone else recently. So we brought over the Greedy Souls recently, and I got speaking to Brendan White, and I had never realized how big an impact I had on him. Like when he was first getting started, he was around a lot of shows, and I don't feel like I, did anything special or especially went out of my way to treat him nicer or better than I would anyone else. But Brendan said to me, like, you're one of the few people who always treated me really, really well in that period, and he'll always remember that and always be appreciative of that. And that means a lot. And he's a great guy, and I'm so happy for him and the success he's had and continues to have right now. But yeah, it's funny how you don't feel like you're doing anything special, but people remember those little things and always remember those good things and want to help you out later on down the road. It's that's why I think it's really important to always be good to people, always be polite to people in this business, because you never know where you're going to see them next, right?
Yes, and you just be polite people, because like this is like the first step to really make a great environment for everyone in wrestling, whether it be fans or in the team of working on the shows. So just be polite. It's the easiest thing to do, make someone's day a little bit better. Speaking of great things, you said you had the interview in January, or you were contacted in January, and then
Yes.
a couple of weeks later you had the first online interview.
Mm-hmm.
So that is obviously the hottest season in WXW, in the WXW
Yes.
calendar. That's in the lead up to 16 Carats. So that was like, but if I remember correctly, 16 Carat was also like your first real big things to do in WXW, or am I wrong here?
Yeah, so 16 Carat 22 was like my first experience first experience of WXW in Germany, because WXW had done a show in Tunbridge with IPWK like many years ago. And I remember actually meeting Dennis there, Dennis Birkendahl, who was filming the show at the time, I believe. But yeah, so like I'd seen that there, I got a little taste of what WXW was about. But yeah, this was the first like real authentic German experience of what it was. And so I ended up, first day straight into the Binnenhalle and to help with setup. And this would have been the Thursday. So yeah, I'm in there, and it's funny to me. I remember messaging a couple of guys back home because we were talking about guys we know on crews who are good camera operators, but they're very lazy about everything else that comes with it, like the laying the cables, setting up the equipment, everything else. And I got there, and the first thing someone said to me is like, "Oh, can you lay this cable?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no worries." So I was mentioning people like, get this, I'm a new head of video, and here I am laying cables, like. But like never a problem for me. It was similar. Like I did a bunch of Ring of Honor tours, and whenever I went to those, it was like before I can get a camera on my shoulder and start shooting shows, having fun, I've got to lay a couple of miles of cable around this building. So get on with it. So yeah, I was there with the setup, looking at how everything was done, trying to figure out, what the setup was, because it was a very similar but still very different setup to what I had been used to. Looking at different production equipment we had, the different camera equipment, and just getting to meet everyone on the team. So I didn't go to Inner Circle that evening. I was pretty exhausted. I remember just went to House Union, got myself a couple of beers, got some food, and then just slept. And so then, yeah, Friday comes and end up, mainly just watching over the weekend, like getting to meet everyone, like seeing how the guys over here were shooting, how we were doing the live edits and the live production. And also we were doing the near live streams on Vimeo that year, right? So I was also seeing how were we sending out the feed, and how are we including the graphics on the feed, and just looking at all these different elements and trying to take it all in, because it was I don't think there was really much need for me to do anything specific that weekend, but it was taking that in. But I did get to do the live edit and the post-production of the showcase event that year, so that was my first WXW event to work on. But yeah, that whole weekend was mainly standing around, hanging out, having fun, and just getting to know everyone and learn how WXW did things as opposed to what I'd done previously.
So you were in that observer role, you're doing small things, but you were mainly observing, learning, studying what is WXW doing, how is WXW doing things. And then fast forward 1 year later, just a couple of weeks back from, we are recording this video early April, for those who are watching this or listening to this. And 16 Carat has just been wrapped up, basically. So what is the difference now to your first WXW 16 Carat Gold experience to now when you're sitting in that big head of video chair? What's the big difference?
I mean, there's a lot more pressure on me these days. So I don't think at the time I really understood just how much prep needed to go into something like 16 Carat. So, there's a lot of organization from us, making sure that, if we need to get any promos filmed from any of the guys, that we're there to do it. If we need to do any, just getting everyone organized in position, I guess, and making sure everyone knows what their role is on the day, and especially across 7 shows in one weekend, that's a lot to do. And it's great, we've got a big team here, and when we can, we're bringing in Sandy, Tahani, and Bori from Hungary to come over and really help out and get involved. So it's making sure everyone has a task, everyone has a role, everyone knows what they're doing, and I'm doing all I can to help them succeed in those positions. So just that whole side of things is something I never really anticipated. On top of that, even just the weeks leading up to 16 Carat, and I kind of learned this in the weeks leading up to Tag Festival last year, there's so much to do video editing wise in preparing all the show intros, all the different hype clips that we make. And again, you've really got to be organized and on top of that to make sure that, we're not 2 days out from the show going, shit, I still have to finish off 5 videos and stressing the hell out of yourself. So that's super different from what my first Carat experience was, because really there was no weight or responsibility on my shoulders. And that's so different from what I was doing when I was over in London, because really there, my team and I were just solely focused on the live event production, just shooting and editing and live streaming the events. Whereas here, there's everything else that needs to go into that. And on top of that, we've been looking to make small changes and improvements to little bits and pieces as and where we can. So over the course of the last year, we've worked hard to make our backstage promo set look even better than it was. At the time, it was very much just kind of the TV screen and a plain black background. And it was fine, and it's probably better than, what 90% of other indies do. But at the same time, it's I know it can look even better than that. So it's, okay, how can we get a few extra lights and put them on there to make this look so much nicer and more high-end, but at the same time, not break the bank on the budget for all the new equipment we need to buy to make this work, right? And as well, we kind of tested this out over TagFest last year, but we've implemented it properly now with Carat this year, is our kind of corner camera. We had a camera, and it was kind of fine, and I understand why that was bought at the time with different budget restrictions and everything else when all the equipment was bought. But I'm it doesn't work for me. It's not good enough. It just kind of sits there. It's static. It's so boring, and it's just not where it needs to be. So we were able to buy a new camera, upgrade that camera into like the shots you see now, where the camera's kind of panning and zooming and doing more. And I think especially like I was looking at the entrances we shot at We Love Wrestling 43, and I feel like we're really starting to get the understanding of how to use that camera properly, how to insert it into the edits and what the audience sees, to really make what we're doing feel interesting and big time and different, rather than we're just cutting to this like static corner shot all the time, and what else have we done?
So maybe if you can lead the audience through, like, because like this is one part of the big management that is hulking up an event like festival event or even like a normal event for WXW. What happens before the event, what happens during the event, what happens in post-production? So how do you like bring all of this together, and what members or what roles are in your video crew that needs to be fulfilled to set up this festival event? So how does that management work, and what are the different roles in that team?
Okay, so kind of before the event, it's very much down to me on my own for the most part to come up with the ideas for the hype clips and intros. I say solely down to myself. I bounce a lot of ideas off of Dennis. He's always got a million ideas, and he gives them to me, and then it's down to me to kind of turn them into like the video and take all these ideas we have and create a script or a narrative and figure out where we're going. So I kind of like come up with all that stuff, and I get a few different members of our team to help me with those scripts, because as you know, my German is terrible. But for our audience, we're having to produce content that's primarily in German. So Met Demasi is a huge help in translating anything which I come up with and write, and then Daniel Kish does a phenomenal job of like recording voiceovers for me so that I can then produce these videos. And sometimes, depending on the workload and what's going on, Stuart will help out, our second like editor, will help out with producing some of these clips, and then I'll put together, and then outside the clips, I put together a schedule for anything we need to shoot directly with talent outside of the event, and I'll contact the talent to let them know what we need from them, what time we need them, and where we're going with things. And I'll speak to the camera team, be like, here's what we've got. So it's kind of like here's in a circle. So we need to be here at this time. This person sets up this person sets up this person sets up this whilst the show's going on. Like, you're on camera 1, you're on camera 2, you're on camera 3, you're doing this, that, the other. And then it's the same when it comes to set up any of our events, really. But when we get to like the Turban Hall for 16 carats, okay, so I need you two people to like set up the backstage promo room for us. You're going to be setting up the hard cameras, you're going to set up the ringside cameras, this person's going to set up all like the live editing stuff, this person's going to set up all the audio equipment and the stuff for the commentators, so everyone knows their roles and knows what they're doing. And for the most part, it's great because everyone knows their roles so well. We can just I can get on with my stuff and they get on with their stuff, so we can all get stuff done pretty quickly. And then it's like, okay, maybe we got a problem, maybe we need to troubleshoot something isn't working, a cable needs changing or whatever. But that's really, really good that we're able to that everyone's able to just be given a job and get on with it and doesn't need micromanaging.
So that's wonderful. So it's basically like a very well-oiled machine here at WXW. So it sounds like it, and you can see as a fan, as a viewer on WXW, you can see, because in my humble opinion, this could go straight to TV what you are doing there, because I believe that's incredible stuff. It's so good, like. Everything, the camera shots, from the feeling that is generated through the editing and everything, it translates very well and makes the performers and the people that are doing the on-camera work look amazing. So that's really good, really good. So because you talked about the management and how well everything is working. What are you most happy about with your crew right now? What makes you most happy?
Oh, do you know what? That's a great question. Something I don't think I've even considered. Actually, maybe I have. And this was a conversation I had with Frank Furman on night 3 of Carrot, and because he said to me like, what's the biggest difference between like now and last year when I first come in? And I think the best thing is just how much everyone's improved and grown and developed over the last 12 months. And because I did a lot of things very differently from how we do them here. So there was a little bit of it wasn't quite as smooth as I'd like to have been to begin with, as we're trying to like mesh together and find a way for the existing team and me to kind of gel and work and make things super smooth and super easy for us to get the events produced in the quickest, easiest, and best way for everyone. But we all really worked together to figure that out and to get it right and to get it where it is now. And yeah, everyone's just done really well with, me trying to, explain like some different styles of doing things, different ways of directing the shows. Because I was taught by a guy named Dave Marquez, and a lot of guys might not know him, but he has like directed and produced pretty much everyone in professional wrestling stateside. He's done a bunch of GCW stuff recently. He's done Ring of Honor. He did TNA. I think he even did stuff for WWE back in the 80s and 90s. He runs the whole like championship wrestling from Hollywood and their stuff.
I think
and so he.
biggest stuff the biggest stuff was also NWA. He was even on screen there. Yes.
He was on screen there, but he's actually a former president of the NWA, I believe. So he's kind of directed and produced for everyone, and he spent a couple of days in the UK with us at Fight Nation and really taught me how to direct, how to manage cam ops, and how to get the broadcast as smooth and seamless as possible. So I really wanted to share that with our guys. And it can be a little bit jarring because, and it was for me because the first time I was directed like this myself was at Ring of Honor. So you're holding the camera and you're pointing, you're looking for your shots, but you got something in your ear saying, okay, ready camera 1, take camera 1, ready camera 2, take camera 2, talking non-stop. And you're hearing every production call as you're trying to shoot. And it can be a little bit off-putting at first. And I think, for our guys, it's a little bit off-putting because they've never had that before. But now they're really good at, listening, hitting the cues, hitting the shots. If I ask them for something different than they've got in the frame, they react, they find it. And I think that's really helped them to understand where we are and where we're going and what we need to kind of, where we wanted to get to from where we were last year. Because we're really, really, really close to where I want to be right now. And it's really exciting. And there's still a few little, issues we need to iron out, I think, and that's just as much myself as it is anyone else on this team. Sometimes calling the wrong shot or pressing the wrong button or giving someone the wrong direction, or maybe I missed something. Someone's pointing a camera, so I'm like, why are you there? I'm like, oh, that's why you're there. I completely missed that was happening. So I'm because directing and producing wrestling is not easy.
I can see that. It's very different from everything else like you could capture on camera. Like it's always moving. There's no one stage because you got the ring and the stage. You got the live fans. That in my imagination, it's very difficult to do.
Yes, it is. It took me a long time to kind of learn it and perfect it and get good at it. And even then, I say perfect it, I still feel like I'm making improvements, constantly working out new things, discovering new things, working with the team to try out new ideas, implement new ideas, just to make this, the absolute strongest, best product visually that it can be. And as you already said, to really help all of the performers get over and connect with the audience who can't be live in the buildings, but who are watching online on, YouTube, on WXW Now 2.0, people who are watching on the WWE Network, so that they can connect and really understand and engage with these characters, these wrestlers, these personalities in the greatest way possible.
And so we've talked about backstage now for a long time, but you are also now an on-screen person in WXW. You
Yes.
are a host or co-host of the new WXW YouTube show. Often it's on Monday. You got your co-host is Matt DiMasi, the incredible Matt DiMasi, who's also an announcer, a commentator for WXW. How hard was that transition from being behind the camera to get in front of the camera? And what do you think of this show right now?
So I don't think the transition was really all that hard. So part of when I was running my production company in London, I was producing videos of myself because, we're really pushing to get into the video marketing side of things. And of course, if you're trying to sell video marketing services to other businesses, then you better be using video to market your own business, right? So I was already doing stuff on camera, and me and some friends had experimented with various ideas for YouTube channels where I'd done a few bits and pieces, not always on camera, but as like a voice host or a voiceover or talking over stuff. So it wasn't really anything new to me in that respect. So I was very kind of comfortable and confident in what I was bringing to the table there. I think, if anything, to begin with, I was just a little bit nervous because I hadn't done that kind of thing in, 2 or 3 years. So maybe a little apprehensive there, But yeah, I think the first few weeks were good. So the first couple of weeks we did the Fight Forever matches. I think the second week was certainly stronger than the first. Then on week 3, we had interview Maggot for Conversations. And then week 4, we did the whole 16 carat preview, the live stream. And when we did that, we both come off of that stream at the end once we had kind of shut it down on YouTube, and we were just having a chat between ourselves. And we really felt like we hit something special there. And the thing we felt more than anything else is that with the first 3 streams, we were really trying to take a traditional TV or VOD format, but force it into a live stream. But with the preview, it was just me and Matt hanging out, having fun, talking about all this awesome shit that was about to happen at 16 carat. And there was so much fun stuff coming up. It was easy to get excited about everything because I was absolutely exhausted on that live stream actually, because I'd had to fly to London that weekend, and I'd only been back home maybe 90 minutes before we went live. And pretty much just didn't stop all weekend. So for me to be able to find that energy and get so excited was so much fun. And I think the fans and the audience really felt that just 2 guys hanging out, having fun was something they wanted to see and something they wanted to be a part of. And so that's what we're going to be trying out, as we move forward. And I know that when this airs, we'll probably have done a bunch more of these live streams. So maybe it's worked, maybe it hasn't.
I'm looking forward to them. I really like the dynamic between Matt and you. It's very fun, and as you said, it's you want to be a part of it as a fan. You want to engage in that live chat, and it's very interesting. And of course, it also helps people who are maybe not that familiar with WXW yet to get an introduction into the product, because this is a free service. And then if you gain more interest to maybe want to see a full show of WXW, a full wrestling show, and then you get into that entire thing. And that has been missing from WXW for a while now. So I'm glad you found a way to get this back. And from my perspective, it's really working. And as you said, you really did create something special there. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. That's exactly the thinking. We want to, give something for people for free to get them into the product, to get to understand, what WXW is all about as a brand, what our wrestlers are all about, and hopefully, that's going to result in people buying subscriptions to WXW now. It's going to result in people buying tickets to live events. I don't imagine it's the case where someone sees one live stream and goes, "That's it, I'm spending all my money on WXW." Right? I'm not that naive. But I hope in the long term, people see this, really get into what we're doing, and are going to give us a chance and see, the absolute wealth of content that we have on now for them to get involved in and really see what the full WXW shows and productions are all about.
So for someone that hasn't subscribed to WX Now 2.0 yet, great service, you all should subscribe. If you had only 5 words to describe WXW 2.0, what would that be? Only 5 words.
Oh, Jesus, that's hard. I don't know. I don't know if I could sum it up in just 5 words, I mean, I think if you're someone who's not based in Germany, who's not based in Europe, who can't easily get to the live events, WXW Now is just like really is the next best thing, because of the work that goes into trying to bring the atmosphere of a live event to you at home. And I know that it's so hard to do that, and you'll never truly replicate the live event, but we want to get it so close and get people so engaged and create that product through the VODs of our events that people really feel like they're almost there and they're with these characters, and they feel and they empathize and sympathize, and they're on these journeys with these wrestlers as as they go through their journeys, and people get really invested in that and want to see more of them.
That's I believe that's clicking now again. That's going like now WXW 2.0. It's an old service, but it's in a new platform. Things are getting added. You do the YouTube stream, and I think that will go and grow and grow and grow and be something really, really good and really, really special. I think this was the right call to do. Whoever made that call, that was the right call to do it this way. And I think it's gonna be very amazing, very good, and continue to be for a very long time. Before we wrap things up, we want to do a little glimpse into the future, and just ask if there's someone that's sitting right now and watching or listening to this interview, and he wants I want to work in wrestling video production. I want to be there. I want to do that. Where does this person start? What software could this person use? What would you suggest to that person right now?
I mean, if you want to get involved in the video production side, go speak to your local promotion. Go speak to whatever production companies might be handling the production for your local promotion, and ask if there's any way that you can get involved. I mean, if you have a camera, great. If not, hopefully these guys have cameras and can teach you, because I didn't have my own cameras at first, and actually today I don't even own my own cameras anymore. They all got sold. Yeah, COVID is what it is. But yeah, go get involved and speak to them. And as far as software goes, we in WXW use the Adobe Creative Cloud suite, so we're mainly in Premiere, and we're doing some motion graphics in After Effects, and all the rest of our graphics in Photoshop. But there's no reason you couldn't use something like DaVinci Resolve, which I believe is completely free as well. So great piece of software, won't cost you anything to use. And yeah, get involved. And I think, especially a lot of guys want to be camera operators, right? And I think the most important thing you can do as a camera operator, and I didn't quite realize this at the time when I was coming up, is you can learn what the structure of a match is in professional wrestling. Understand what's happening, understand the story, the drama, the emotion. So many people, when they first get started, and I was just as bad as this, we only focus on the moves and the bumps, right? Because we think, oh, that's what it is. And in actuality, it's a story, and you need to understand what every section of a professional wrestling match is. So, get involved and go to the local wrestling school. Ask people to teach you and to help you understand and really understand what is going on in the ring. Because the more you understand what is happening in the ring, both from a physical perspective and a storytelling perspective, the better you're going to be able to capture that and to then get that to come across to the audience at the end of the day.
Thank you for the advice. I believe that if someone is watching this and wants to go there, I think that will really help this person out, because uh, I also did my research on this. There's not many people that go on an interview and do this and give at least some aid for these people. So thank you very much for giving all of these insights. My final questions before I let you just plug your stuff and let people know where they can find you, and maybe give a suggestion also what they could watch or what they could watch of your work. The final question I have is, what do you wish on wrestling and the future of wrestling?
Oh, I mean, I just want independent wrestling, well, wrestling as a whole, to be successful, to draw big crowds, to draw passionate crowds. Like, wrestling is best when people really care. And I mean, there's a lot of different things I wish, and some of these, simple things like this, like for wrestling to get big and good. But at the same time, I really hope that a lot of promoters can start learning to work together a little bit better. And I say this after hearing some stories from some friends recently of some really silly arguments happening between different promoters, because I really feel like, when the UK scene blew up and got huge, it wasn't because, one guy was like, oh, it's all about me, and my company, and, the shows I run once a month. It was because there were a lot of different promoters working together for the success of the scene. And when they all put their egos aside for just a brief moment there, it meant that the UK scene as a whole got really big and really good, and people got really, really excited in it. And, because of that, I was able to go full time into producing and shooting and directing and editing professional wrestling events. And, for me, that was glorious. It was the best thing I ever did. But it wouldn't have happened if people hadn't worked together. And at that time, everyone involved was making more money and running bigger shows and drawing more fans, because we all worked together to make the scene better rather than not. So, to every promoter everywhere in the world, if they happen to be listening to this, just work together more. Like, that cooperation goes a long, long way. And I like to think we have that here at WXW. We often do, the shows we cooperate with APC. We did Paris, fantastic company, fantastic guys. We're doing what we can to support them. It's always great to go down there and run shows with them. We did the show with Body Slam up in Denmark. And I can't say too much, but there's other companies we're also talking to about running various shows, and we're hoping, we can all build and grow together, because that's how the scene gets stronger. That's how wrestlers get better, because the scene's stronger and there's more shows for them to work and to learn and to develop. And it's the same for anyone, whether they're a photographer, a video cam op, a director, a producer, whatever your position is. You're only going to get better by doing more and more and more of it. And, that's not going to happen if it's just one guy or one company being selfish, trying to do everything on their own. It doesn't work like that. Not from my experience, anyway.
Very true words. So, where can people find you? And if you would suggest any content that if you've done or you are very proud of, you've been involved with, what would you plug there? What would they watch? One thing, and where can people find you on social media?
So the main place I'm using on social is Twitter, where you'll find me at mshuttle85. I don't really use Instagram all that much these days. So yeah, Twitter's the best place to find me, as long as it's still around anyway, because I feel like the platform's been going downhill so much recently, which is a shame.
Very true, yeah.
um, I mean, as far as content to watch, I really don't know. Like, I think it depends, like, what they're looking to do in this business, and what you're looking to do as like as someone in video production. I mean, if you're looking to make hype clips, look at some of the hype clips I've made for Carrot and for Tagfest and any of the other matches and shows and the intros, because these all get posted to our YouTube channel. Some of them I'm more into than others. There are some which I was like, there's some I feel like I really nailed and perfected. I'm super happy with. There's others I was like, it didn't really work for me, but it's the best I could have done given, the time I had to put it together. But I still feel like, if I only had an extra day, an extra week, that could have been so much more. But yeah, look at all that stuff. There's loads. And I mean, like, also, fun fact, like, we have like when we do the big festivals, obviously we have different intros for nights 1, 2, and 3. So very often they're getting produced on the day of in very little time. The night 3 intro for 16 Carat this year, I was slaving away getting that done as best I could during We Love Wrestling 42, so that was ready for everyone when night 3 hit. And again, it's a little rough around the edges for my liking, but when you consider, like, the time scale to get that thing shot, edited, and put together, that's really good. You look back at Tagfest, and both the day 2 and the night 2 and night 3 intros were kind of cut together with very little time, and both featured footage from the previous night in them. So although maybe they're not the most spectacular, when you consider that, I maybe had an hour to edit both those together, like, that's not bad. And so I'm happy with that. If, you're looking for, like, you want to shoot and edit whole shows, if that's where you want to go, then yeah, look at some of the whole shows that we have, or whole matches that we have from the bigger events, like the Fight Forever pre-show matches from 16 Carat, from Back to the Roots, from 22nd Anniversary. They're a great place to start to see, how we shoot, when we cut, why we cut, how we use the ringside cameras, how we use the hard camera, how we use the corner camera, especially now. Actually, I think moving forwards, when we see the corner camera, that'll be a lot better than anything we've had previously. So that'll hopefully give you an idea on how to use that.
So plenty of stuff to check out here. Thank you so much for being on the show. There's great insight. You've got so many stories to tell. I believe we have to do it another time, a second time, because you've got so much to share with us. Thank you so much for being here. This was Marc Shuttle. My name is Daniel. You've been watching the Just Bring It podcast today. You can follow us at justbringit_pod on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you very much. And as always, the final words go to our guest.
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you all, everyone who's taken the time to listen to this today. If you do have any questions whatsoever about, video production, please find me on Twitter, ask those questions. Always happy to help.
Thank you. Bye.
And you're listening to Just Bring It, the Nerd Podcast.